Good day everyone, welcome to ITS 306. This is Web Development 2. This is for sections A and B. So this is going to be another pre-recorded class in continuation to our previous discussions about user interface design. So be sure to watch the entire video, listen and understand the lessons attentively. After this class, there will be learning assessment and assignment to be posted. And today, we will continue with our discussion with formatting. This is going to be this lesson will be divided into multiple parts, and for today we're going to discuss the first part of UI design formatting. So without further ado, let's get started. If you have any questions or comments, share it with the class. Comment your questions once this class is uploaded through our Facebook group post, or you can send in your questions to our Facebook chat groups. Previously, we've discussed designing a website website's user interface, and we've done a front-end markup design. And today we will continue with UI design, but this time we will be working with formatting or using CSS for designing our markup website. So just to review, this is going to be the steps or the procedure on how we are going to build our website in this course. We will start with the user interface design, and again, last lesson we've discussed the front end markup using HTML. This time we'll be working with front end design, basically formatting using CSS, and next we will be adding script and adding functionalities like using PHP and MySQL. Again, a user interface or UI design focuses on anticipating what users might need to do and ensuring that the interface has elements that are easy to access, understand, and use to facilitate those actions. UI brings together concepts from interaction design, visual design, and information architecture. And this is an example of the user interface. And here are some of the elements that makes up a good user interface for a website. So we have the brand name or logo, navigation bar or menu, search bar, that is to search any content inside a website, and then all of these are part of the header. And then we have the banner. The banner usually includes the headline or subheadline, and then call to action buttons, highlighted content. We have featured content and post or feed contents, and we have the footer, and usually footer includes forms perhaps, and social media links, copyright information. And maybe there are more elements that other websites or other web designers include on their works, but just to give you a general idea, these are the common elements that makes up a good user interface. Okay, so let's talk about formatting. Formatting is a coding process that allows a control on how the HTML tags will look like once it's rendered by the web browser. Cascading style sheets or CSS is the most notably used language for formatting. Okay, so formatting is just another term for designing. And it's not just any designing, we'll be using cascading style sheets in formatting or designing our website. Now, if you can remember last time, we've done the markup of our website. If you can remember, this time for this lesson we are going to format it and then turn it into something that perhaps will make it look like an actual website. Now, this may take a little while because obviously there are lots of parts of the website that we are going to format. So for today's lesson, we are just going to perhaps take the first part and end it whenever it's deemed necessary. So cascading style sheets, again, this is just a review. For sure you've already known this from last semester's discussions. Cascading style sheets, or CSS, stands for cascading style sheets. It is a style sheet language used to describe the presentation of an HTML document and how the elements should be rendered on the screen. Okay, so when we say style sheet language, these are the language used for formatting a markup, and then the markup language that we are using is HTML. Again, CSS is for styling or formatting markup language. Markup language is HTML. CSS defines styles of web pages including design, layout, and variation in display across devices and screen sizes. Yes, indeed, CSS is responsible for formatting how the HTML will look like once it's rendered on the screen, and then it is also capable of um, responsing, or let's say making the website responsive to different screen sizes and resolutions. As you probably have observed, website will and most websites like Facebook, Google, YouTube will work just fine regardless of the screen resolution or screen size of the device that you're using. So let's say, for example, Facebook. As maybe you have already noticed that whenever you log in your Facebook account on a desktop or laptop, it looks it it looks just fine. It works just fine. However, if you're going to log in through your computer or your maybe tablet or mobile phones, the Facebook's environment or the user interface has changed. So one of the responsible for doing that is the CSS or cascading style sheet. Those are called responsive websites. More of it will be discussed in our future lessons. Okay, again, this is just another review. This is CSS syntax. So this is an example of a CSS rule set. A CSS rule set is composed of a pair of the selector and the declaration box. Okay, so this is the rule set. It includes the selector and the declaration block. Okay, so the selector, that is the HTML tag. All right, so basically this is the HTML tag, and then the declaration block includes the declarations. Basically, these are the properties and values that allows us to modify how the particular HTML tag will actually look like. Okay, and then the command, or perhaps the properties on how we are going to make the HTML tag look like are called declarations, and the declarations are composed of property and value. So if you have noticed, so how do we write the CSS syntax? We have the selector. The selector must follow the must be followed with a block, and the block should start and end with the curly braces, and then we have the property colon and then the value, and then it must always end with a semicolon, unless if it's going to be the end of the block, you don't necessarily have to write the semicolon by the end. So for example, in this case, we have two declarations. For the first declaration, there must be a semicolon, but on the second one, on the last one, we don't necessarily have to write the semicolon here because it is already the end. However, just to be perhaps just to be formal and to make sure that this it will not cause any error in our future designing, it's always best, or it's a good practice to always include semicolon at the end, every end of the declarations. Okay, so today we're not going to be discussing all of the CSS syntax. Maybe we can discuss one or a few. However, we won't perhaps discuss all of the CSS syntax or the CSS properties and so on and so forth, because it's gonna take a lot of time. So I want you guys to still go ahead and perhaps practice read the CSS syntax and properties on your own. Just go to www.w3schools.com/css and then look for CSS reference. All right, so let's start. We're going to design our markup, our website that we did last lesson. So please bear with me. Most of you have already started working on your website as assignment, and some of you have already submitted, and some of you has not turned in your assignment yet. So it's okay. I'll give you time for that. I'll still accept whether it's late. But this time, once you upload your assignment this time, you should upload the first assignment prior to submitting the second one. Okay, so last time we've we've created the website, but this time we just did the markup, or basically we just included, or we just structured our website. What are the things that must be included? And then basically it doesn't really look good. If you can see, let's open it up here. Okay, so it doesn't look like an actual website because we're just doing the markup. Again, we were just including all the necessary elements that we'll be needing for our website. But this time, we will get to design this and turn it to something perhaps like this. Okay, so this is the finished product, and so far this is where we ended last time. This time or today we will try to make it look just like this, or perhaps make it a little more like an actual website. So what do we do first? Let's open up our website directory, or perhaps the location where you save your website. Again, always make sure, because I'm still getting some questions on why the pictures are not connecting. Why is it the pictures does not load? That is because you haven't included it on an actual folder. So here, for example, I have here a folder, and this folder will serve as the website or the directory, because this is where I'm going to put all of the elements or necessary for the website. So I call it site, and then under the site folder we have the index HTML, then the font awesome library, and then we have the image folder. This image folder includes or contains the pictures that we'll be using for this website. Now, for us to start writing the CSS code, maybe you've already, of course, you should already know how to do it. We are going to create the CSS file. Now, we can either just write CSS right here, but to make it more manageable or organized, we will create a new folder in our website. Okay, in my case, I'm just going to name it underscore CSS, or it would be totally up to you, so long as you are able to address the connections between the CSS and the HTML later on. So in my case, I'm gonna write underscore CSS, and in this folder is where I'm going to write the CSS file. So I'm going to name it style.css, and then always make sure to remove the txt file extension. You'll get a warning saying if you change a file extension, the file may become unusable. Are you sure you want to change it? Just click yes. Okay, you can either do it this way, or you can open up your IDE or perhaps Notepad. Here, and then save as, locate the directory or your website, and then save the file name style.css or style, and then always make sure to include the file extension, which is .css, and then save. It's going to work just the same. All right. Okay, so now that I have my CSS file here, let's edit it using my let's open it up using my text editor, which is Notepad++. Let's separate all of this. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, once we already have our style.css file, then we are going to make sure we're going to connect our HTML file to the CSS. Okay, so how do we do that? I'm pretty sure you already know how to do it, but we will use the link element. So we have link and then rel. Let's declare that it's gonna be a style sheet, and then the location. So as for the location, it's very important that you know how to locate the CSS. Again, consider where did you put the index. So the index is right outside the CSS folder. So all we need to do is just enter the CSS folder and then connect the style.css. So in this case, we will write underscore CSS, that is my folder, the name of the folder, and then the file name, which is style.css. Okay, and then let's close it. Let's save that. And then to check whether it's working, let's just try to add a few things to, or perhaps add a few formatting to our website to see if it's already working, or if it's already connected. So let's try. I'm just going to add a background color to the entire HTML body. So we'll add background color and let's say blue. Let's save that. Let's make sure to save both of the files, and then let's open up the website and then let's reload. Hold on. Background color. Okay, we've got wrong spelling, so make sure all the properties that you will write must be the right property, or it must be spelled correctly. Let's save. Let's reload again. Here. Okay, so we know that our website is already connected because the background color has changed to blue, just what we did. So let's try it again. Let's change it to yellow just to be assured. Let's save that and then let's reload. Boom. All right, so we know that our website is already, or the CSS is already connected to our HTML file. So we're going to remove this. This is not all we want for our website. All right, so let's go back. So we want our website to look like this. So so far it's looking like this, and it's so far perhaps the difference between these two are just enormous. And then the first thing that we're going to do is let's start from the very beginning. Let us design the navigation. Okay, so let's open up our code. Let's open up our code here. Okay, so we have here the navigation. So this is gonna be the first HTML elements that we are going to change, or we're going to design. Okay, so how do we do that? The first thing that we're going to do is call the element that we are trying to edit, and that would be, of course, the nav. Alright, so let's write nav, and then this would be our selector, followed by the declaration block. Okay, the first thing that we want to do is to set a height, a specific height. Let's say 72 pixels. Alright, px stands for pixels. And then let's see the background color, or let's say the width. Since we already have the height, let's declare, or let's set the width to 100%. Right? When say width, setting up the width or the height to 100%, it will automatically compute the size of the browser screen. Okay, so let's say, for example, this particular screen is 1080 pixels. So if we're going to write 100%, it will automatically write 1080 pixels, right? Or if this will be viewed using phones which usually have 720 or less, then it will automatically, basically doing or setting up 100% for the size, like the width or height, will automatically adapt to the actual screen resolution of the device that you are viewing from. Okay, and then let's change the background color to this hash 264A51. All right, so again we have the selector, and then the declaration block, and the declaration block includes or contains the property and the value. The property and value are separated with a colon, and then each declarations are separated with a semicolon. Now again, we can either just remove this, it's fine, since this is the last declaration of the entire rule set. But again, just to make sure that it won't cause any problem in the future, we're just going to remove that. This is a good practice. So let's save, and then let's reload. All right, so we have our navigation here. Now notice, if you have noticed, there is a certain padding, or a spot that kanang nalikayan ba? Parang na spot nga wala na ganing na siya border or margin. So we'll try to get rid of that. To do so, open up our code again, and then under body. Okay, so again, it's not in the navigation. It's inside the body, the rule set. Let's change the margin to 0, because right now the body is giving the default or a certain value for the margin. So let's set that to 0. In that way, this empty space will be removed. Okay, so the margin is gone now since we've set it to 0. All right, so perhaps the next thing that we're going to do next, the next thing that we're going to do next is to perhaps let's say let's set the margin to 0. In that way, it won't, whenever we will add another element to after our navigation, it doesn't cause any empty space again, or it doesn't put up any negative spaces again or blank spaces again. So same thing, let's set the margin to 0, and then the position fixed. Now if you can remember, the position will define how the element will perhaps scroll, or how the elements behave once we scroll down or scroll up. So by setting it to fixed, that means whenever we're going to scroll the entire website up and down, it will stay at the top of the screen. So let's try to scroll it down. All right, so setting it to fixed, if you've noticed, our navigation didn't really move. Okay, next. Now this kind of perhaps behavior, or website behavior will be, or visual element behavior will be totally up to you. I just liked it to be fixed, but again, it will be totally up to you. And then we will add we will declare that everything that we're going to write inside the navigation will get a certain design or font size, font family, and so on and so forth. So we will declare that whenever we will write something in the navigation bar, it will get an action or a certain font family, and I'd like it to be Roboto Condense. Now this will depend whether the device that I'm trying to view it from, if na ang computer or cell phone na ay Roboto Condense nga font, then the Roboto Condense font will be generated. However, if wala, you can either add more font family, let's say Century Gothic. However, now if the device doesn't have Century Gothic as well, you can add more, but just to make sure that it will not just display any other font, we will try to declare as the last option. We will tell the browser to select any sans serif font. Okay, what does it mean? So writing sans serif, basically there are different types of fonts. So we have sans serif, cursiva, so on and so forth. Sans serif is, okay, if you can remember back in our graphics and visual computing lesson last year, so serif fonts are those fonts that are perhaps simple. It doesn't have any okay, just like this. Okay, let's try to take a look at the difference between a serif and a sans serif. Okay, so let's take a look at the difference between a serif and a sans serif. A serif, if you notice letter F, it's got grooves on every edge. Okay, so we have that going on, and then we have grooves. Okay, this is the serif. The sans serif doesn't have any grooves at the edge of the letters. Okay, so that is sans serif and serif. Now, again, both Roboto Condensed and Century Gothic are example of sans serif. Now, however, if the device doesn't have both of these font family, then it will automatically select for any sans serif available for the device or the computer. That's it. Okay, now maybe you're asking which of the two will be generated if both of these fonts are available. Then the browser will automatically use the first one that has been declared. Next is we will set the font size to, let's say, 20 pixels. All right, and then let's save that. All right, and then let's reload. Okay, right now, as you've noticed, we can no longer see. Here it is. This is the. It uses a Roboto. Let me see. Okay, unfortunately, my web or my device doesn't have Roboto Condensed font. That's why it uses a Century Gothic, just like this. Okay, so that is why it's very important to use multiple font family, just in case the first one that is not um, installed on your computer. So right now, my computer is using the Century Gothic, or the browser is using the Century Gothic. Okay, next is, all right. We want this um, navigation links to be written somewhere here because we want it to be inside this box. Okay, so how do we do that? Now, before there is a new way on how we can transfer this links at the right side of the screen. So it is a new CSS property called flex. All right. So let's not really property, but a value called flex. So we will set the display to flex. What it does is it moves the other it separates any elements inside a section horizontally. All right, so let's just see how it works. So right now, let's save that. Right now, the list is at the bottom, but if we're going to add the flex display, it will automatically be moved at the right side. So here's how it works. Okay, so if you have noticed just a while ago, the content or this particular navigation is located at the bottom because by default all the contents will be separated vertically. So if this is the first element, if we're going to add another element, it will always be written at the bottom. Okay, on however, using the display or the flex display property, instead of doing it vertically, we can now change the orientation of the elements vertically, or horizontally rather. So instead of going down, using the display or the flex property, the elements will now go sideways. Okay. However, that will be inside a section. So which section are we trying to change here? So it is the navigation. So the navigation, if you have noticed, we are setting the flex display under the navigation element. So everything that will be inside this nav will be written or will be oriented sideways. Now, let's say, for example, if you're going to add another element here, we're just going to duplicate that. Now, instead of going down, it will now go sideways. It will add another element sideways. Now, if we're going to remove the display flex, by default, everything will be written from top to bottom here. Okay, but using the flex display, we'll be able to write all the contents of the certain section sideways. Okay, so this is very important, or this is a much easier approach when it comes to setting these up, because before I learned about flex, I have to do float right, float left. There are just too many procedures on how we can make sure that the elements will be oriented sideways. But this time it would be very easy using just one property or declaration. Right, so let's just remove this and then let's proceed. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is to okay, let's stop for now, since we're able to since we're able to change the orientation of our navigation. Now we will go, the next thing we're going to do is, right now, di ba nagsunod siya paubos? Let's fix that and let's make it kanang mag-ana pod siya. Mag sideways pod ang atong home, blog, projects, and about. So how do we do that? Let's call in the navigation. So, or the link rather, we will call this. Okay, so let's say nav a. All right, so we are calling the anchor elements inside the navigation or the nav element. Okay, so we're not calling any other a, only the a which is under nav. So the a, which is this, inside the nav. Okay, all right, let's add our rule set here. And what do we do first is to perhaps let's change the color to this one, D E D7CE. Okay, and then no, all right, and then let's say the color, the text decoration, let's add none. Okay, what it does is it will remove all the current decoration of the text. So what are the current decoration that we have? So as you've noticed, the link has underline and then it's got bullet at the left side. So we want to remove that by doing those. So let's reload. All right, so there are no more decoration for the home, blog, projects, and about. And then to remove the bullets, we are going to, okay, for the bullets, that will be in another element. So we do that, we will call it nav and then ul. Okay, here. So this time we are calling the ul under the navigation element. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is, of course, we are going to make sure that the text will be written side by side. So we will use again the display and then flex and then list style none, that is to remove the bullets. Okay, let's check that. Let's save and then let's reload. All right, so now the text is now being placed sideways, and then there are no more text decoration or list decoration, which is the bullet. So next is we are going to, hold on. Okay, we're going to align everything, and align items to center. Okay, let's check. So basically right now it's not perfectly centered. It's not perfectly centered, but this time it is. And then let's change the height to 100% so that it will automatically adapt to the size of the navigation bar. Hold on, let's just remove this real quick. Let's get back to it in a few moments. Let's set the margin to 0. All right, so hold on. All right, and then let's go back to our navigation. And then let's continue designing this so that it will be located at this side of the navigation screen, or at the navigation bar. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do, let's go back to our navigation navigation bar on our CSS. So we would like to justify the texts or the content to space between. Okay, let's save that and let's see how it looks like. All right. So what do you mean by justify content? For the meantime, let's remove the margin here. Let's save that. Align items to center. Okay. All right. For the meantime, what does it mean when it comes to when we say justify content space between? Let's open up CSS, W3 School CSS. So, okay, the CSS justify content property. Align the flex items at the center of the container. So it will work for flexed contents. Okay, so here, let's take a look on how it actually works. So there are different properties for justify content. So we have flex start. Basically, this is default. The contents will be arranged side by side at the top right corner, top left corner rather. The flex end would be the other way, and then center. All of the contents will be side by side, but it will be aligned center. Space between, it will be given space between and space in between them, and these space must be equal to each other. So let's say, for example, so we have the side, center, and the other side. These space between them are equal, and then space around. Now this could be this will arrange in a way that each side of the element will get the same amount of size or space. So let's say, for example, let's say if this is 10 pixels, we have 10 pixels here, and then we have another 10 pixels here, we have another 10, 10, and 10. All right, so you see the difference within the space between, the space around, space evenly. So that means the space between them are the same from the edge of the screen to the other edge of the screen, and then initial just going back. It's going to be the same with flex start. Okay, so to learn more about this, just go to CSS reference under W3 schools. Right, let's go back. So right now it's looking just like this. Now we want the home blog projects and about to be at least separated with each other a little bit. So we will. Okay, all right. So our home link is now highlighted. So this time, what we're going to do next is basically this will let the user know that they are under home link or the home page basically. All right, next let's change or let's format our logo here. We want the logo to be located somewhere right here, and it should fit to the navigation bar. So let's go back to our source code. Okay, and then all right, so as you've noticed, the image is inside the division with that has ID logo dash image. So that is where we're going to call using our in our CSS. So let's again to call an ID, we will use hash and then the name, which is logo img. All right. Now we want the image inside the division logo image to be to fit the actual navigation bar. So we will add another image. That means we are calling the image element inside the ID logo image. Okay, and then let's set the size or the height to 100px. All right, let's save, let's reload. Okay, all right, now we're just going to make sure that this logo will be centered and will be aligned properly. So let's go back to our source code, and then this time we will call the logo image only. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to again set flex for the display. and then let's declare that the height should be 100%. Okay, 100%, that means it will adapt to the size of the navigation bar, which is 72 pixels. And then let's say the background is should be this to hash 264A51, and then let's set the padding to 0 and 32 pixels. That means the top and bottom should be 0 pixel, and both sides will have 32 pixels padding. And then let's see, align items to center, and then color is white. All right, and then let's save. Okay. All right, so it looks good now. It is now centered. The only thing that we're going to do is to finalize our navigation. To do so, all right. So I want perhaps just to add a little more interest or dynamics to our link. We want the links to have animations whenever we hover or something like that. So I want it that whenever I hover to this link, the link will change its appearance to perhaps to let the viewer know, the user know, that it's an actual link. So to do that, we are going to use an instance called hover. Okay, so let's go back to our A, or the anchor links, or the anchor elements. Okay, and then we'll create an instance here. Same thing, we will use nav A, meaning we are going to call the anchor elements inside the navigation section, and then colon hover. All right, so that means these properties will apply whenever we point our mouse or our cursor to the anchor links, or the anchor elements, or the links basically. So whenever we hover, we want the perhaps color to change to this hash cc734b. Save that, and let's reload. Okay, all right. So again, whenever we hover to the links, it will change the color. All right, so that is an example of an instance. And then same thing that I want to do with the link. Whenever we hover to the to the logo, whenever we hover to the logo, it will also change its color. So let's go back. The same thing that we're going to do, we'll create an instance. So hashtag, or hash rather, logo image, and then image again, and then let's add hover, and then let's say background color, and whenever we hover it, it should change it to 243343. Save that, let's reload. Okay. Alright, for some reason it's changing something, but it's okay. We'll get back to it in just a few more moments. Now, you can also set the duration of the changing of color, right? As if you can see, whenever we hover to the logo, it will change the color. However, if the change of the color is just too quick, we can set the duration of the changes, or the animation basically. To do so, let's go back to the image here, and then let's set a transition. That means whenever there are animations or changing of or alterations of the appearance, it will be set in a specific amount of time. So we will say 0.4 seconds. So that means whenever we use the hover instance, it will change within 0.4 seconds. All right, let's perhaps move it right here. Hold on. Let's check. All right, there it is. Okay, so as you can see, the changes, or basically the color change, is not instant, but it's about 0.4 seconds. All right. Okay. All right, so that will be enough for the navigation. Let's proceed to the banner section of our web page. And then perhaps we will just going to end um, we're just going to end with the banner for today's lesson. Okay, let's go back to our source code. All right. So far that's enough for the navigation. Let's proceed with the this one, the banner. Let's just add here navigation just to let us know if there are already tons of lines of codes. So that would be navigation. And then here, this is for the banner. Okay. All right. So since this is an ID, we will use a selector. Since we're using an ID selector, we will use hash and then banner. All right. Let's say the height should be 100 VH. So 100 VH is also similar with percent. Again, when we say 100 VH, it will automatically adapt to the height of the browser screen. So if you're using this one is 1080, then it will automatically use 1080. If you're using your phone, which is about 720, it will also use 720. It will automatically compute basically the browser screen size. So the height will setting it to 100 VH, it will automatically set to the vertical height of the browser. And then same thing, display. Let's set it to flex. Excuse me. Align center. Align items rather. Center. And then justify content. Just to make sure that all the contents will be written at the center. And then okay, this time we are going to add a background picture to our banner. So to do so, we'll add background image, and then we will select which photo or which image are we going to use. So this one, 3 dot, we will use this as the background image. The file name is 3.jpg. So let's say background image, URL, and then parentheses, and then the location of the photo. So in my case, it's under the image folder. Okay, the image folder, and then the file name, which is 3.jpg. All right, and we want the background size to cover the entire screen. So background size is cover, and then background attachment fixed. This means it will not scroll together with the screen, and then background positions must be at the center, of course. And then all right, so that's it. Let's save that and let's see how it looks like. For some reason it's not working. Let me go back to it. All right, so the reason why the photo is not showing up, it's because let's go back to our directory. If you have noticed, we are right now, the CSS file is under the CSS folder. So for us to get through to the image folder, we have to perhaps go outside the CSS folder before we can enter the image folder. So to do that, we're going to tell the browser to go outside the CSS folder before entering the image folder. So to do that, we will add dot dot, then slash. All right, that's it. Dot dot and then slash. Right, the 2 dots and the slash will send a command to the browser to stay away from the CSS folder for now, before going into the image folder. So let's save that. Let's reload. All right. So it is working now. Okay. And then next is we're going to finalize the format of our main header. Sorry, the title and then the slogan, or the header and the main header and the subheader. So for the main header, we would like to make it look just like this, and then the slogan would be something like that. Okay, let's go back to our source code. Now, the title is written using the h1 element. So we will call banner or hash banner and then h1. And then we will set the padding, or let's say the background color to CC734B, and then let's say the border radius, let's give it 8 pixels border radius, so the edges won't be very sharp. Let's set the margin to 0. Let's set the font family to let's just keep it as it is, center Gothic, and then let's set the font size to 64px. Save that, and then let's check. All right, so we've got that going on already. Let's just change the font family instead, just to make it look better. Let's use Calibri. Now, if there are no Calibri, we will use any sans serif. Okay, all right, and then let's add. Let's go back to banner. Let's add padding. How about on the H1? Let's add padding, 10 pixels. All right, okay, that's better. All right, and then as for the H3, hold on. As for the H3, let's call it 2 hash banner H3, and then let's set the font size to 24px, and then perhaps color, let's just write white for now. All right, okay, that's it. I think that's it. All right, and then perhaps to move this at the bottom, we will use, since we were using flex, let's set the flex direction to column. All right, so we have flex direction, let's set it, change it to column. In that way, it will give us an exemption. Instead of just going vertically, this time it will go horizontally this time, or instead of going horizontally, it will go, or the orientation will be vertically this time. So let's save that, and then let's reload. Okay, all right, so I think we're almost done now. Okay, all right, so I guess this ends for today's lesson. We will continue with the rest of the entire homepage formatting in our next lesson. Okay, so in our next lesson, we will continue with the blogs, the projects, and then our footer. Okay, all right. So that'll be the end of the lesson for today. To assess your learning from this class, kindly fill up this form. You can copy the link on your screen right now, or you can either click the link once you've already uploaded a copy of this presentation file online. The deadline would be Tuesday, May 4, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. That's exactly 7 days from now. Now, today, this link may not be opened yet. I will just open this link once, or this assessment form, once this class already got at least a few 100% views online. Okay, so make sure to watch the video from start to bottom, so that we'll be from start to end rather, so that we'll be able to open this form right away. And for your assignment, please check out our Google Classroom, and then the deadline will still be Tuesday, May 11, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for making this far, and keep safe. God bless us all.